Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last new and early faculty workshop for 2024. We have a presentation today on business continuity and risk management, thanks to Pam Schmelz from Ivy Tech. And we have a couple of guest speakers as well, Janet Orrin from Towson, and we also have Zoe Fowler from Norwich with her regularly scheduled competency talk and presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to the presenters. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining us on this nice December. I hope you guys have Christmassy weather, whatever that is defined for you. And I hope you guys have a good time on this one. So I'll turn it over to you guys. Thank you again.
Thanks, Paige. Okay, so just as a check, is everybody seeing my slide over here getting started? Okay, perfect. So today we're going to kind of talk about business continuity. We're going to do an introduction, talk about work roles, competencies, and I'm actually going to show an example competency for this particular topic that I created. And we'll kind of talk about the introduction to business continuity, looking at some lesson plan examples, just have a general chat about this topic, and then wrapping up. So the first goal we have is the basic understanding of how CAE competency should be thought about when teaching, designing your classes. As we know, for our CAE designations, we have to start coming up with, first we have to come up with like the 10 work roles, and then we have to, over the years of, you're doing your annual reports, coming up with the full-on competency. So building this into these training sessions is hopefully helping us to understand how to do that and what that looks like. We're kind of look at some business continuity templates. I do have all of these in a Google Drive that can be shared out later as well. We're going to look at some lesson plans and brainstorm some other teaching strategies. And yes, thank you, Zoe. Redesignation, we're identifying 3 work roles first and then up to 10 competency statements. And then hopefully you will leave confident and prepared to embark on your, oops, typo. Clearly I copied something from before. That would be business continuity, not Linux. I'll fix that in the slides. So my name is Pam Schmelz. I'm with Ivy Tech Community College. We are the largest singly accredited community college in the nation. We run upwards of 200,000 students a year. We are one system. So the state of Indiana has only one community college. We have 19 locations. I'm at one of our smaller campuses in Columbus, Indiana, which is about an hour south of Indianapolis. I've been teaching cybersecurity for about 16 years. I started the cybersecurity program here at Ivy Tech, and now we're nationally recognized. And a CAE I've gone through 3 CAE designations since I've been here. So that's exciting. Janet, I'm gonna throw Janet under the bus a little bit. She got kind of pulled in at the last minute to help out, but if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. So I'm Janet Orrin. I'm an adjunct professor at Towson University. I've been at Towson for 22 years since the CAE program started. I actually was on the flip side of CAEs. I worked at the National Security Agency, so I actually helped develop the CAE program and the initial certifications. I've retired from there. I currently work as a consultant, so I do cybersecurity consulting for all kinds of different organizations, nonprofits, commercial, healthcare, finance. So this topic of business continuity is something that I address pretty much every day in my real job. So it's near and dear to my heart because it's really important to a lot of organizations.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to roll right into our competency review. Those of you who have attended these sessions in the past, this should be a review. But I think it doesn't hurt. The more we talk about it, I think the more we can comprehend what this thing is that we're doing. So basically the competency is that bridge between what you're learning in college and what you need to know on the job, right? What are you going to have to do, work, task in whatever role you're going to play in the real world. So in order to build a competency statement, we look at the different work roles. You can use the DCWF or the NICE frameworks. The DCWF has I like them better because there's like more choices. So that's the one I tend to go toward. And you'll see that on the next slide when I've listed out some of the different types of things where business knowledge of business continuity or incident response might be in a work role. There's a lot of them on the DCWF side. So then you find the task, you build an activity which enables the student to develop that competency within that task, and then remember to provide opportunities for the student to develop and and practice those employability skills, which is, can you read, can you write, can you communicate with people, that kind of stuff. So I went to both of the frameworks, and I do have the links in these slides, and thank you, Paige, for putting that in there as well, in the chat. So on the NICE framework side, some roles where you might have experience, or you might touch business continuity or incident response, might be in security control assessment, system security management, cybersecurity architecture, incident response. And you can see on the DCWF, you have a lot more. And this is not even all of them. I didn't want to hurt everybody's heads and put too much stuff on there. But you can see, cyber defense analyst. Whoop, I'm not sure what happened there. Technical support, and a lot of these, the roles over here, we're community colleges, right? So these roles, especially like on the analyst side, are probably going to be more likely that what our students are going to come out of right up front. Over here, that might not be an associate's degree job. So the ones on the DCWF, I think, have more of uh, oh my gosh, words are hard. A broad spectrum of abilities when you're coming in. This Montreat 360 is something that you can use to help build the employability skills piece of the competency statement. So the link is there. And so what I'm going to do is, here's the link to something called the cybersecurity competency constructor. And this is really cool because what you can do is you can create new competency, and you can, give it a name, um, and then is it, what kind of activity are we going to do, so that you can see there's a lot of different options. We'll just call this a classroom activity. I'm going to pick the DCWF framework, and then the work roles. I'm going to come back over here and see if I can find cyber defense analyst. And so it has these like built-in, this just steps you right through, creating it. So then we start into the ABCDE. And so I'm gonna exit this now because I'm gonna show you what that looks like for cybersecurity. I'm sorry for the this published one. So this was one I did when we had our competency training. And this is from our course, is a business continuity course. So we have a whole course on business continuity, where we've also rolled in security policies and disaster recovery and incident response. It's all built, it's all together. But this is something that we do as a semester-long project. So here we have the name, where it's create business continuity documentation. It's a classroom activity. And so what is the type? So in the actor form, this is where we're like, because it's educational, typically it's going to be what should the student know ahead of time already. So in my case, the type of the student is a fourth semester sophomore who has taken at least cybersecurity fundamentals class, or if not, a School of IT student is a high achieving business student who has an information technology faculty approval, because this course, actually, we thought it would be a good idea for our business majors to understand business continuity. And it's not technical, right? You don't have to know technical things in order to write business continuity plans and disaster recovery and think about, gee, what should we do? So we thought this would be a good course for school, business students to take. So then over here in the behavior, this is where that workforce framework comes into play. So you can see here I used the DCWF. And in this case, I had the system security analyst. And then the task was this task 938A. So the beauty of using this tool too is you don't have to, like, the only words you have to write are like the type of student, and then what the context is, and then, what does a success look like? Um, the other stuff is just you can just pick it from a list. It's pre-populated. So I picked this 938A, which is provide advice and input for disaster recovery, contingency, and continuity of operations plans. So here's the scenario. And this is, like I said, this is a semester-wide project. So they're given a business continuity template from the Public Safety Communications and Emergency Management Organization to fill out for either a fictitious company. So I have a scenario of a small vet clinic down in Florida, and they have to deal with some like hurricane stuff and that and it has, a handful of employees and a handful of computers, so it's very small. But they can also do, a company of their choosing. And I've had students do things for small businesses, for nonprofits, for, all the again, the beauty of this assignment is it can be very applicable for the student. And as we know, the more applicable it is, the more the student is going to get out of the experience. The work will be completed using a milestone method with several sections to be completed by each milestone. And then I gave a link to this document, which is also in the Google Drive for you guys to look at as well. So I'm using a standard documentation that can be used, giving a typical scenario where a student might have that. So the degree of completion is under percent complete. So, I have a minimum requirement, right? The documentation has to have the table of contents. The sections have to be filled out. The sections not needed need to be deleted. And then details will vary in complexity, but the main idea should be described. So, can students follow directions? That's kind of an employability skill, right? Did you delete the sections you didn't need? Did you fill out the ones you did, do you have the table of contents? Do you know how to work, your word processing software? And then the employability skills I'm looking at here are writing, the ability to express thoughts, ideas, and facts in writing, and also manage time and workload, because we are doing this as a progressive milestone-based project. This is a pretty big document. Before I went to this model, I had students that would turn anywhere from like 12 pages to 75 pages. And the formats would be all different because I'd let them pick the format. So I over time, because I've taught this class like 15 years, um, I've come down to this milestone model with the given template, so that helps kind of standardize things. So that's what a competency looks like. So I have one down and 9 to go. Any questions on competencies before we move on to the business continuity part? Okay. So let's talk about business continuity. What is it? And we roll in disaster recovery, business continuity, um, disaster recovery, business continuity kind of are the same, but they're a little bit different. So that gets a little confusing for students. Sometimes those terms are interchangeable.
Mhm.
But basically it includes things like your risk assessment, your business impact analysis, and recovery strategies. And who might do something like this? So a security analyst might do things like help identify the vulnerabilities, develop those security protocols, conduct risk assessments. So this is how you can tie in why are we doing this with something you might actually do in the real world, which is, by being a security analyst. Um, so I think I don't have, yeah. And the security analyst, the other thing, we emphasize is this is a cross-functional team, right? Actually, there are several teams typically involved. You have maybe the risk assessment team, you might have the computer response team, you might have a lot of different groups of people coming together, depending on how large your company is. If you're dealing with a small mom and pop shop, then that same person might be all the teams. So those are the kind of discussions you have in class too. And what I found interesting, why this topic is interesting, is because this is not covered. I think it's being covered more in cybersecurity education. It's covered a little bit in foundation, right? Your cybersecurity essentials, your security plus type topics. We talk about incident response, business continuity, and that stuff on a high level, but not many colleges dig in and like have a whole class just on this. That's actually required for the course. So I think more colleges are going this way, and that's why I think there was a lot of interest in this session as to what other people might be doing. But the cool thing about this topic also is that not only can it be a full class, but it can, um, you can insert pieces all throughout your whole curriculum. So you don't have to worry about, oh man, I don't have room for a whole nother class. That's okay, because we can bring it in. So, one example again you might be is okay, you're a SOC analyst. So here's a scenario. Company has a data breach that exposes customer information. Then the security analyst is going to have to identify the source of the breach, contain the leak, prevent further damage. They then help develop a plan to restore systems securely and ensure the incidents are less likely in the future. So again, it's that tying of why are we doing this lab? Why are we doing this in class? And oh, by the way, if you're a SOC analyst, you're going to have to do this. So bringing those real world examples together. So where might this information be in a cyber program? So here are some curriculum ideas. You can have a full disaster recovery, business continuity class like we do. As part of that in our class, I mentioned we do have them write parts of a security policy. We actually used to have a whole separate security policy class as well. But then we thought, well, having a security policy class and a business continuity class is a lot. So again, using templates, um, and I'll show those here in a moment. We dictate which parts of the security policy students are writing. And again, the security policy is applying to this small vet clinic or whatever business they happen to be wanting to do. So they'll get experience writing a security policy. Then they will create the full disaster recovery and business continuity plan. So that is interwoven with the like textbook content. So the textbook steps you through what you're doing, and then you're kind of following along with your like real life example. But if we don't have room for a whole class, we can do lots of single topics, right? So risk management, we can talk about incident response, we can talk about security operations, vulnerability management. So one thing I thought I'd do, hey, let me put together a sample lesson plan. And so I went out to goblin.tools. I don't know if you're familiar with that particular tool, but it is an AI. And it has a tab across the top. There are several tabs across the top. It's kind of a fun little AI helper. But there's one called the Professor. So I went to my goblin.tools and I went to the Professor tab and I said, I need a lesson plan for business continuity for introductory cybersecurity students. Okay. So this is basically an hour and a half class that it gave me, but it's pretty good, right? So here, understanding business continuity gives you the objective. It tells you what you might need. So here we have maybe a case study. You have maybe some group discussion questions. And it also tells you about how long you should do each of these things. Talk about what business continuity might mean, introduce the concept, and then we have some case studies, right? So here's a case study. We're going to talk about it. And so it gives you the group projects. And then we actually, in class, maybe do a really basic business continuity plan. So here's a template. Here's to work the plan. We finish it up, and here's the homework. So one thing I wanted to really kind of emphasize here is we can use these AI tools. And I actually have a paid subscription for ChatGPT, but the Goblin tools is pretty cool. I learned about that in another conference. In this Goblin tools as well, you can actually dig down into each of these, so you can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper if you need more and more information. But it won't take you long to flesh out some of those topics we talked about because we have these AI tools, right? So you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking, okay, well, I want to, this chapter we're talking about risk assessment. It's kind of high level. I want to dig deeper. You don't have to do a lot of research. You can just go to your AI and say, hey, I need a lesson plan or help me find some materials or, that kind of stuff. So I wanted to talk about that because, I'm all about being not reinventing the wheel, right? And we're subject matter experts, so we can identify if it's giving us stuff that doesn't make sense, right? And we can flesh it in. Um, and then Yair placed in the chat that he points students to borrow from, oh yeah, SANS. We've used the SANS securely policy templates as well in classes in the past, and that is a really good. I have done it that exact way. So that's another really good resource to put that in. And then Paige is asking if anyone has suggestions or recommendations for running tabletop exercises.
Yeah, I have I can put into the Google Drive. I do a tabletop exercise as one of my days in my intro to cybersecurity class. I'm happy to share those slides with the group.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Tabletops are really, I have a card deck somewhere. I don't think I have it handy over here, of tabletop stuff. And that really helps hit home, because businesses should be doing that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do those very regularly with all businesses at least once a year.
Yeah.
And we use the as they get a little bit more mature, like after the first or second incident response tabletop, we also do them now where we do, a basic incident and roll it in to be something more severe to invoke their business continuity plan.
Oh,
So
not,
kind of going from, something that's quickly resolved into something that becomes more serious.
yeah. That's, yeah, and it's, this is kind of a weird way to say it, but it's fun, right?
Oh, I love doing them. Yeah, it's a blast. Yeah, I mean, the key with the exercise is, like I said, doing these for, commercial companies, and what to emphasize is they have to be realistic, right? The one thing I never want to do with an exercise is to be sitting there and somebody says, well, that'll never happen here, or we have this control and that'll never happen. So you've got to at least do enough, preparation to make sure that it is something that legitimately, can happen in the customer's environment. But other than that, they honestly don't have to be that complicated. People will start talking, and you unveil a lot of good information pretty quickly.
Yeah. And the very simplest stuff, um like you said, okay, we a water hose froze on the outside of the building. What are you going to do? And it's, the pipes are attached to, however, and 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 I think it's some of those most basic things that people don't think about, and a lot of stuff around physical security when you're running your business continuity, and your disaster recovery plan. A lot of it really is physical security too, that a lot of people don't tend to think about, because you're kind of geared toward the digital side, but you got to know what you're doing with your people. You need to be able to, people can get out the doors or can't break in the door, all that kind of stuff. So uh it's just as much physical as digital. And I think not a lot of emphasis gets put on the like physical side, I don't think. Especially when you're doing like the business impact analysis, and I'm going to hit the some of the templates here in a minute. But, just going through your business and looking at the stuff you have. Do you have stuff that's on paper? Do you have stuff that's digital? Do you have your people? Your people are assets. So what's the, impact to that? I don't, even just looking at a mom and pop shop on, I always thought we have a street called Washington Street, downtown Columbus, and you have all the little shops. It's like, well, do they have a plan? Let's say it's a bakery. Do they have a plan on if their oven stops working? I mean, that's business continuity, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't have to do with just only digital things, and even personal. I think in our intro cyber class, when we talk about like disaster recovery or business continuity plan, we talk about your personal plan. So when you go through these, these topics, they also apply to the students in their personal lives too. Are you backing up your stuff? Do you have a go bag in case there's a fire or a tornado or a hurricane or whatever it happens to be? So, this topic is really is one of my favorite ones because again, you can build this in to affect everybody personally, and it really makes you think about, oh man, I never thought about that. I need to think about what am I going to do with my pet in the case of a fight, or whatever it happens to be. So, um, that's why this is such a cool topic to teach, and embed throughout the your curriculum if you can. So, in this Google Drive here, which will be shared out, there are several things in here. So the presentation is here, and I'll fix that typo. But Janet um, had put in this uh, business impact analysis template. That is a nice one to use. You know, it helps you just organize everything. Here are some ideas of, how to add up I guess that's doing the calculation over here. Sorry. But it helps you do the calculation of the impact on if something goes wrong in your business. Um, let's see. This continuity business continuity template is the one I use in my course. And I'm a little bit evil with this because in order to build out this, like I said, one of the things I wanted in that competency was that they did this table of contents properly. Um, it gets a little tricky when you to get all the headers, and subheading types correct. So I'm a little bit evil with that. But again, that's one of those employability skills. I know how to use Microsoft Word and I know how to do a table of contents and do the pagination and the sections. So this, the formatting of stuff really sometimes gives students a challenge, but it's good for them, right?
It's important.
Um, so
Mhm.
this template just basically tells you what you should put in here. So it steps you through. And some of the stuff you don't need, and some of the stuff you can delete. So that's a fairly lengthy template. It's a lot of pages. Um, and then, here's some of the so here's the actual project description if you guys are interested in that. Um, and then so like here's some of the policies that I have students write, some of those templates. And while that's coming up, Zoe put in the chat, communication is central to employability. This is a great example of specific elements of communication needed for this work role. Our students need to have this explicitly explained to them as it is a cultural practice, not something innate. Yeah, absolutely. So you can see that this is actually one of the SANS templates. So for the policies, I actually did use the SANS templates. Um, so that looks really strange. I don't know why, but any templates you can use. These are industry standard. We don't have to come up with this stuff from scratch. It gives you the format. You just have to fill in the specifics for your company. So it helps you step through all. It's probably looking weird because I'm viewing it through Google Docs instead of actual Microsoft. That's what.
I would point out just to make sure that the SANS templates are good. They are very basic. So students should know that, when we're writing them for the real world for some of the requirements, like if you're doing DoD type requirements and things, they're much more involved, right, than these are. I mean, these are a basic format, and a good starting point. But the in reality, the policies that we write for real companies, particularly when they have to pass audits, are a lot more significant.
Yeah, and this gives them examples to show employers that they understand what it takes to write at least an initial policy. They've at least seen what a policy looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of students even see this stuff. So even at a very simple level, it helps you be better prepared to do those real life ones that are 30, 40, 50 pages long instead of like one, right?
Right. Yeah, they absolutely are a good starting point. Yep.
This folder were just some inventory tracking sheets to help organize people when they're doing your kind of inventory for your business impact analysis and stuff. So just, just um more templates, more templates. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Let's see. Let's pop back over to here. So, and we've kind of talked about this, some of the things to keep in mind, right? Disaster recovery planning is a lot. It's a lot. You can have a whole course or three with it. But let's get people going and let's do some lessons here and there woven throughout your existing curriculum. Maybe some of the courses like protocol analysis, that's kind of a boring course. Maybe we can throw some, incident response in with our protocol analysis class as we're doing Wireshark analyses, right? Liven it up a little bit, and get those skills in there. And again, you use AI to help with this. So, Janet, we're to the kind of collaborative brainstorming portion of the session. Is there anything you wanted to add that I might have missed?
No, that was all great, Pam. I like your ideas about, either doing it as a separate class or, weaving the different topics into, other classes. I do the same thing in my intro class, just so people have at least heard the terms, right, and have some familiarity with it. I also like the fact that people, to understand that business continuity is about the business, right? There's absolutely is an IT component, but it's more about the business. So this type of, understanding can be for, any students interested in cyber, not necessarily the ones that are highly technical, that you don't need to be a computer scientist to do this type of planning and analysis. And, what I really would emphasize with the students, because it's what I don't see in, the real world, is a lot of our IT teams that we deal with, they never have the time to step back and do the analysis. So I like the fact that you picked the analyst roles for this, because that's really where I see the gap. People, don't take time to step back and really understand, what their particularly dependencies are on systems, and working through that. So that's a really important aspect also, is, kind of that step back and really, really look. When I was in the government, we used to, work through failure chains, right, of systems, and working through, looking for having designed in at least two levels of failure, right, before, something would become a problem. So definitely, some concepts that, can get worked into this. But yeah, like I said, mostly that emphasis that it's as much of a business problem. And the other big part of that is a lot of these decisions, like, where do people go? Where, do I just take my laptop and work from home? Do I, go to another building? All those things. Those are business decisions, and IT should not make those decisions, right? They, you always want to emphasize that too, is, the business, like, I'm in the middle of a discussion with a client right now, that they're, the CEO and the IT department are not seeing eye to eye, because the CEO has his concepts about how things should recover, and IT has theirs, and they've never really sat down to hash it out, right? But the business should really tell you, this system is our top priority. Get this one running first. IT should make those decisions, or you're going to end up like my clients, where you're going like this. So, that can be a challenge. But happy to answer any questions people have, or things that you've seen.
My students love tabletop exercises. I tried to do an incident response one, and I think that they really do enjoy doing that, but I do struggle with the idea of like making it realistic enough. Like I want to make it simple that we can get it done in like the hour that I have with them, but I also don't want it to be like, oh, this is something that you'll probably never actually see. So I was kind of wondering if you guys had any like resources or places that I can find some things. I have been trying to use AI, but I will say sometimes ChatGPT comes up with some stuff that is so far out there that it's going to take me an hour to explain it to my students. And then I'm never actually going to get to the exercise. So I was just kind of curious if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Right. And I would just look at, I follow the SANS news bites every week, or I guess twice a week. They come out as a, kind of high level, but follow some other things. But just really trying to see, like what's happening in the real world and taking, s- simple phishing, examples that are, actually happening. If you follow Microsoft too, through their security channels, they will describe, what they are seeing happening. So it's kind of those like Microsoft's intelligence group, CrowdStrike's intelligence group will, describe what's happening, and you can pick, some of the simple things there. Um, I have a little bit of an advantage because I we see it every week. Unfortunately, we have clients that become clients because they got hacked and then they call us. So, but we do see, a lot of activity, with that. But like I said, just monitoring some of those things will give you, simple ideas. And you're absolutely right, Paige. The scenario does not have to be that complicated. I just sent the one so you guys can post it up. It doesn't look like I can actually post up to the Google Drive, but feel free to take a look at that. It doesn't have to be complicated. What I do with my students on the incident response exercise is the week before that exercise, I assign each of them a role. And usually it's like, because my class is bigger, it's usually like 3 people for each role. And so they're representing human resources, or they're representing the IT director, or they're representing the CISO. And so they all are assigned a role, and their discussion posting the week before is to research that role and what type of decisions would that person make in an organization. So they come prepared a little bit with that kind of background knowledge. And then I pose questions to them. So some of my classes are chatty and it goes, others are not as much. Well, it depends on the class. But but yeah, I actually, pose questions to them and you know, ask them to answer. And it's the same as doing an incident response exercise with your clients. They don't have the answers, and so we're really careful in the beginning to say, hey, this is a learning exercise. Don't expect you to have all the answers for this, and and let people know that. And so it's same kind of guidelines with the students, and it goes well. But yeah, I kind of put them on the spot a little bit to see what they know, and like I said, never had an issue with that at all. So
Cool. Thank you.
mhm. Anything else?
I love this as an example of writing, and thinking a lot about how we need to expose our students to these kind of documents, but also developing those kind of writing practices, which really aren't commonplace in academia. The idea of working on a report and redrafting it, potentially redrafting it collaboratively with the team and getting feedback. And also the information management of making sure. I really liked the Google Drive that Pam was modeling, and thinking about how to teach our students that kind of very logical information management so that they have the documents where they need to be. They only have one version of that document which they're sharing. And it ended up with that very kind of logistical, streamlined approach. And potentially our students, I think, haven't had that opportunity to really think about managing information or to think about what it means to provide a professional report. And we're really in such key places, educators, to give them that toolkit before they go out into the workplace. So I'm absolutely loving this. I think it's so central to what we're needing, kind of skills that we need in our students to develop.
Right. That is so key, Zoe. I was just talking with my team this morning, trying to get people to use Teams or Google Drive, whatever the tool that's available is, and don't don't put your stuff in OneDrive, right, or your own device. That doesn't help when you're working on a team. That actually is, and keep versioning, right, keeping, using these tools which are beautiful to help us, get control versioning, and that people just don't want to use them correctly. So I absolutely agree. every one of your students, if you are working in cybersecurity, every one of the students is going to be working on teams. There are very few roles in cybersecurity where you work all by yourself. Even a forensics person, right? You're going to do an investigation, but you're going to have to then present and defend that investigation, or maybe get information from other people. So you almost never work by yourself. And they've got to be able to manage that, and put information together, especially doing investigations, keeping your data together, evidentiary procedures, all those things factor in. So yeah, what you're talking about, information management, would be extremely helpful. I can tell you the younger people that we hire, at my company is only about 100 people, so we're not big, but the younger people that we hire, the ones that are more successful, are the ones who are comfortable interacting in teams and who are good writers, and keep their stuff well organized. The ones who are not as successful, in a business environment, we do not tolerate people being off camera during business meetings, right? So that's something they should start getting comfortable with. I know, some people don't like to hear that, but when you're, especially if you're like me, right? If you're a paid consultant, you are, my boss tells me straight up, you don't have an option. Get your act together and get on the camera. So, but yeah, so starting those things early, is really helpful. I don't think what else. Yeah, and one of the other examples that I provided that Pam put in the Google Drive is a ransomware playbook, and that might be something that can be a little bit more technical, for your students that have more technical skills, because that really should be like the IT version of step by step by step. We turn off this server, we reload this backup, whatever. There it is. Thank you, Pam. But yeah, like I said, this is an example from FR Secure. There are many other examples there. Sometimes people do them in flow charts, just like different styles, but they're all basically the same, literally step by step. What am I going to do? These are, again, really important. A lot of your students, one of the things coming out of school with a 2-year degree is they might be a SOC analyst, Operations Center analyst is a good role for someone, coming out of school. And but part of that is they're going to be given this type of playbook, right? When you're new and you're taking over those things, you're going to be handed these playbooks and expected to be able to execute them, and essentially follow directions for them, and then possibly write or revise playbooks. So it's a good thing for them to be familiar with. I think a SOC analyst is a great role, for new students coming out of school to start getting experience. Any other questions or things that you were curious about that we didn't talk about?
Could we just quickly go back to the example of the playbook again? So I'm just thinking about these kind of employability skills. The idea of this meeting, after the attack, where people are going to debrief. And again, this is a set where we're in a position when we're designing these opportunities for our students, we can really be fostering these practices. So again, when I was like, here, conduct a meeting after the incident to discuss the following: what went well, what didn't go so well. They're not things that our students can automatically do. So providing these kind of opportunities for them to develop the experience of debriefing, doing this kind of hot wash, I think is so valuable as well. And also doing that in a professional way and a collaborative way so that they're able to hear one another and build on one another's ideas.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree, Zoe. I'm a systems engineer by trade, so we kind of throw that onto everything, right? Everything you do, then you review it. But this is extremely important. And, in real time, I'm actually doing this week, right, with a client that had an incident. Their managed security service provider and managed services provider, things didn't go well, right? The incident should have been discovered about a week before it really caused an impact. And it wasn't. So we are doing exactly what's on the screen right here, right now, going through discussing why didn't alerts get attention, what, and again, talking about doing it professionally. So we from my company, from Hartman, we're new to this group. We don't know these people. We don't know the personalities or the history or any of that. So we have to be very polite and not calling people out. And I was jumping on the phone the other day, and I literally got a note from my boss, and he said, "Be nice on this call." Because I was upset. I was upset that they, had the information and they did not alert, when I thought they should have. So I was nice and polite, but we were, firm and asking for specific information, to get it. So that is a really important skill, of, getting everyone's input, being patient, understanding that things do go wrong, incidents today and new incidents come up, 0 days come up, things happen in systems that don't get caught, and it's not, there's no time for the blame game. Right, you've just got to sort it out and move forward. So like I said, so this is really important. Like I said, we do this every time we are doing any sort of incident investigation. We're doing a triage later to say, hey, what can we do better?
And one
Yeah,
of the areas within employability in the ABCDE model, which is responsibility and integrity. And what we often find with educators when they're writing their competency statements is when we think about employability, we focus immediately on communication and collaboration because they're things we're doing most often. But like you say, that ability to identify when things have gone wrong falls in my mind into responsibility and integrity category. And when we're thinking about writing our competency statements, just providing something within that activity where the student may be reflecting upon what went well, what didn't go so well, fits into that responsibility and integrity as well as into communication aspect of employability.
Exactly. Yeah, because let's be honest, like my situation right now, companies said they sent an alert. There are logs, right? There are logs, there are email journals, and things, and it they didn't send an alert, right? Regardless of what they said, they didn't send an alert. So it's going to come out, right? I'm a CISSP. I take that to heart very well. So that's something also to emphasize with students. Even if you don't have the certifications, maybe emphasizing with them, the gosh, now I can't remember what the CISSP calls them, but kind of their core tenets, right? Of honesty, calling things out. Maybe like I said, even if you're not, talking about the certifications, maybe just looking at those, criteria, is really important. You know, People just have to trust each other, in these environments because there's a lot going on, frankly, from a incident, and people are really, when you get into smaller companies, people are really struggling, like, even just be able to financially, put security controls in place. So it is a lot of discussion and trade-off.
and it's a very iterative process too, right? I mean, you talk about, continuous improvement in manufacturing. Well, this is the same thing. You do that after action report so you can see how you need to modify your teams or your response plans or whatever you policies even. So it's not a one and done type of situation. It is truly iterative. And if you're not understanding that, then you're gonna have some trouble.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we, in addition to just, reviewing after things happen, every single policy and stuff gets, looked at and reviewed at least once a year, right? Or, any other significant change that would impact it. I literally create for all of my clients like an annual calendar of this is what we do for cybersecurity every month. And it's, just how do we maintain our program, you know?
So
So,
question about certifications for faculty. I also have a CISSP and a CASP. I've got Linux Plus and some other host of things. But um, when I was new to this position and just starting up the cybersecurity program here at Ivy Tech, the part of the deal was, I come out of came out of industry IT, right? So cyber wasn't even a thing really back in the day when I started the program in 2008. So cyber was only kind of starting to be popular. Um, I had to do a certification. So I did the SANS GAC was the very first certification. So I had to start, I had to do the certification. But that gave me a really good foundation of what is cybersecurity. So, anything like that would be good for faculty. And then, of course, it depends on the credentialing of your program, right? If you're teaching a Security Plus content course, should your faculty member have a Security Plus certification or higher? Um, CISSP is nice because it's the more business focused, right? And not as tech. I mean, there's some technical stuff, but is more business focused. So that gives you kind of a different take on it than, some of the more technical certifications like Security Plus. So it really depends on the knowledge of your instructor already. What are the requirements of your program, your credentialing requirements, and then what they might be interested in.
Yeah, I agree, Pam, on everything you said. Um, yeah, you asked about risk appetite statements for executives, and that's an important thing too. Again, back to the business should be making the decisions for business continuity and response. Um, I will scrub and share with you all. Also, I'll send it to Pam so it can go in the Google Drive. I have a good statement I've been using with clients on risk, how to get people to agree to risk appetite, because people everybody there are lots of different ways to do it, right? I've had clients insist that their risk appetite statement could be no more than a paragraph. And then I've had others, that it's about 4 to 5 pages of, discussion. So lots of variability in that. But I do have one that covers, a lot of different areas that I've developed over the last several years that I think is pretty good. It's a little bit on the longer side, but it, gives you some ideas on, different aspects to cover. So I'll scrub that and, share it with you all also. So Rupesh, for CISSP, it's probably like wherever you can pick up the intro to cyber courses are definitely a starting point. CISSP covers a broad range of things. You'll definitely have to study for it because there are a few like technical things they throw in there. But in general, it's looking for you to understand all the vocabulary and the concepts and the principles of security, which, a good intro class and then some studying on top of that should set you up fairly well, to get that certification. Um, but yeah, that's where I would start. You need something broad in order to get ready for that, for the CISSP exam. But like I said, I agree with Pam that from a general standpoint, it's what I would look at.
And Rupesh, I'll also add that EC Council has a sale going on where they have like 15 or 20 trainings available for $1 each. So it's going to cost you like $12 for a year's access to their training, which has lots of, so they're going to be a little more technical so my background's actually electrical engineering and business. And then I just worked in IT because that's what I wanted to do. And they tricked me into the electrical engineering thing. So, I would suggest looking at the end of year sales. Like I said, I just signed up for the EC Council ones. Um, Udemy has a lot of stuff. You can find a lot of sales on Udemy classes. And like the Security Plus is a good foundational if you want to get to security, like specific stuff. Because you already have like the IT systems ideas, with information systems. So Udemy will probably have a bunch of sales going on. You can buy a course for like $12 or 15. So really inexpensive training. I would check out both of those as well. Oh, you worked with Caterpillar. Okay. Very familiar with that. Nice. I worked at Cummins actually in the beginning of my life. So similar background.
Well, thank you.
Learning, yeah.
I hear some familiar names. I lived in Lafayette from 2005 to 2008. So it's very nostalgic to hear all of you guys.
Yeah, my husband called on Caterpillar as one of the customers when he worked for Alpha Laval. So
Yeah. I've
you might be done with
completely
him. I don't know.
my avatar or persona is completely changed now. I mean, it sounds so distant. Yeah, it's very nostalgic. Thank you.
The beauty of cybersecurity is that there is so much training available um, that's free or low cost. I think it's one of the few industries that has so much out there, which is good and also bad because it kind of wears you out going to all the things. But I think that we're in a really good place with this major because of all of the resources available for upskilling at a very inexpensive rate.
Yeah. The I'm program director for health informatics at my university, and I'm somebody who waits for things to settle down. So, but in AI, so many things are changing that health informatics and cybersecurity and AI, they are cross-secting so fast that I had to jump in and start looking into this
Right.
uh, because I otherwise I'll be behind.
Ah, it's exciting.
Yes, a lot of things are happening, and it's just amazing how fast it is moving. And one of my complaint with academia was that we are always so slow, but I think now academia is moving faster.
Community colleges for sure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think you guys are more in forefront, and which is good.
Well, I hope this session was helpful. It was a little shorter than some of the other ones, but there again, there's not a lot of like technical stuff going on. It's all about how can we infuse it into our curriculum? How can we build a course out? Of course, you're welcome to contact me with any questions you might have down the road about a specific course or writing the competency statement or any of that kind of stuff. The Google Drive link will be sent out, and I think Janet's going to send some more stuff up um, for us to put in there. So, we is all about the resources, right? That's what we want. So hopefully we've given you those resources that will be helpful for you as you look into doing this topic in your schools.
Yeah. For me, Goblin tool seems was something I've never heard of, so I'm gonna definitely test. And then this content creator. So all the links that you have shared with in the chat, competency constructor. I was not aware of that at all. So definitely, I'm going to look into that. And I consult with a small healthcare organization. And my interest has always been small and medium businesses because they don't have the resources. Um, and but thankfully, they have always felt benefited through my research engagement. And so not only I did my own research, but I have been sort of their volunteer strategy consultant on all levels, finance, cybersecurity. And so that's a experience that we cannot really get looking at the big picture. So matter of fact, if anybody's interested in doing some kind of an audit or um, review the company, I'm more than happy to extend that access um, or if students are looking for um, experience interviewing executives or talking to them, or maybe assessing what is the security assessment at the moment, because I know it's a healthcare company and everybody believes that once you are HIPAA compliant on your software, you're good to go. But uh, employees don't know what phishing email is. Um, and we've had several issues in the last 2, 3 years. So working on it, but it's a slow progress because being a small company. So if
Yeah.
anyone's interested, please feel free to reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for attending today. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday break and you have a good start to your next semester. Because we won't see you again until the end of January. I will send out an email for all of that great information. But thank you again once to our speakers and to everybody who participated today. Recording will be out probably not till after the holidays because I do have to get it over there, but I will let you all know when it's there. So I'm gonna stop the recording now.